Sorry, Disneyland, this is the happiest place on Earth. For the fourth year running, and in spite of COVID, Finland has been crowned #1 on the UN's Happiness Index report. It seems kind of improbable, so has Finland actually found the key to lasting happiness? Or is the whole idea a steaming pile of shit?
Sä aloitit nyt tänään, tai siis viime talvena vai?
Joo. Ja sitten vaimo sanoi, että toi näyttää niin tyhmältä, mitä säkin voisit harrastaa.
It's springtime in Helsinki. 8 a.m, partly cloudy and just 10 degrees. Prime Finnish swimming conditions. A freezing plunge is one of Finland's 2 favourite pastimes.
When the sea is cold, it's kind of like a meditative experience that you have to concentrate on your breathing when you go in there. Otherwise you would panic because of the cold waters. And then the other part is like this sauna, tradition of sauna. Having invented this very warm place to be is very important during the cold and dark winters. They're kind of like a spiritual experience almost to the Finns. In Finland there's like 5.5 million people, and I've heard that there's like almost 3 million saunas, which means that it's like one sauna for every other Finnish citizen from cradle to, from all age groups.
Frank Martella is a happy guy. A philosophy professor, author and native Finn. Frank is also one of the world's leading thinkers on happiness.
I guess if I think about my own happiness, my answer to that is quite boring in a way, because I think the 2 key factors in my happiness is like family and work. My life becomes meaningful when I feel that I'm somehow meaningful to other people.
Though he studies happiness, when Finland first topped the charts in 2018, it was a bit of a shock.
So the Finnish people, the reaction was quite kind of like, people were surprised and almost angry because they felt that this cannot be true. Because I guess the Finnish self-image is that we are this kind of like melancholic people. We listen to sad music and hard rock and this kind of music. So happiness was not part of the Finnish self-image.
The UN World Happiness Report ranks 138 countries according to their citizens' levels of happiness. Since its inception, Nordic nations have dominated the top 10. When Finland went to #1, Frank wanted to know what makes his people so happy.
With a few colleagues, we started to go through the research, trying to find the answers. Nordic countries tend to be countries where these, unemployment benefits, pensions and other benefits are on a quite good level.
But what makes Finland stand out is a unique Finnish concept called sisu.
Sisu could be defined as this perseverance in face of extreme obstacles. The concept of sisu comes from quite far back, and I guess it's related to the very harsh natural conditions of Finland. So people are kind of accepting the bad thing faster, and through that perhaps being able to then cope better with it.
That kind of explains the dips in the ocean. But according to Frank, a cultural focus on perseverance has reshaped the way Finns view happiness.
Finnish people are not too obsessed with happiness. People don't shoot for the stars. They are usually quite happy with quite ordinary dreams in their life. So that's also in a way sisu in action.
So how does Australia compare in terms of happiness? Well, in the 2021 report, Australia came in 11th. Still happy, but a long way from the top. It begs the question, can Australia learn from Finland and be happier?
Maybe we can go over there in the forest across the road.
And that's exactly what this expat Aussie mum is finding out.
I wonder what we're going to find today.
For Finnish people, the idea of happiness is very different to an Australian's idea of happiness.
Let's see, hey. Oh my goodness. Somebody started to build a little hubby house.
For Finnish people, happiness might mean more of just a satisfaction with life.
Looks like a mushroom.
Originally from Sydney, Melissa Giorgio moved to Finland 11 years ago with her Finnish husband.
You're making a slingshot.
7-year-old Milo was born a few years later, and the family settled in Helsinki's outer suburbs.
Woo!
Initially, the plan was to spend 2 years away from Oz. But then Melissa fell for Finland.
One of my favourite things about living here is whether you're in a residential area or in the middle of the city, it's easy to access nature.
I hope summer comes quickly.
The other thing that I really enjoy is that Finnish people seem to be quite satisfied with the way things are, and they don't seem to want more constantly.
Okay, do you think you've had enough? Yeah. You're not hungry anymore? All right.
Also, nobody seems to care as much about status. There's not as much hierarchy here than there is in, say, Australia.
So right now we're driving through a typical neighbourhood of Greater Helsinki, and pretty much it looks like any other neighbourhood within Finland, in my mind. It's just not obvious which suburbs are the so-called well-to-do ones and which ones are the not so well-to-do.
The flaunting of status and wealth is considered quite gauche in Finnish culture.
The big thing that struck me when I first came to Finland is that you're not going to a dinner party or a barbecue and talking about real estate. Nobody's asking about where you live, which suburb you live, where your kid is going to school. It was quite refreshing, actually.
Ooh, double.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Chance.
For Melissa, less status anxiety was a welcome relief. But for the young mum, Finland had bigger incentives that made her happy to stay.
The whole country takes care of the raising of children. The system is set up so well. So from birthing my son to bringing him up at home and then sending him to daycare and then on to school, every aspect of that felt really well supported. 22. I'll give you 25. I've got so much money.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
I have too much as well.
Finland provides all mothers-to-be with pre- and postnatal health care at no charge.
All right, zip yourself up.
Finns also receive some of Europe's highest parental leave benefits, and childcare costs are mostly paid by the government.
You ready?
But for Melissa, a former teacher, the cherry on top
See you later.
is having Milo in the Finnish school system. Finland's schools have sat at the top of Europe's rankings for more than a decade.
Pitäisi keksiä virke, jossa on 4 sanaa ja kaikki pitäisi alkaa K-kirjaimella. Muistatko tämän?
Primary, high school and university are free, mostly government run, and for young kids, the environment is very different to Australia's.
Suomessa lapset aloittavat koulun 7-vuotiaana. Opetussuunnitelmassa Suomessa lapsi nähdään sellaisena aktiivisena oppijana, eli hän on oman oppimisprosessinsa hyvin sellainen tähti, eli lapsi itse suunnittelee ja asettaa tavoitteita sille omalle oppimiselle. Ihan voipi reippaasti kaikki kokeilla, ei haittaa, jos tulee vaikka virhekin.
Tina teaches grade 2.
Hyvä.
As an educator, she's part of an elite group.
Hyvä. On Suomessa semmoinen aika arvostettu ja haluttu silloin kun itse hain opettajaksi, niin alle 10% hakijoista pääsi sinne yliopistoon. Ja me sitten semmoinen 4-5 vuotta kestää opinnot yliopistossa ja valmistutaan sitten kasvatustieteiden maisteriksi.
The highly qualified and highly paid teachers are the backbone of a system that's built on equality. In Finland, nearly all costs associated with school are covered by the government, something the principal Husko is proud of.
Perusopetus ei saa maksaa lapselle eikä heidän perheelle yhtään mitään, Kaikki oppikirjat on ilmaisia, kouluruuat on ilmaisia. Jos on pitkä matka kouluun, niin koulumatkat on ilmaisia. Sitten kaikilla oppilailla on samalla tavalla mahdollisuus koko siihen perusopetukseen. Lihapullia. Nam nam. Ja toinen, mikä sitten on merkittävä, on se, että eli kunnallisia on käytännössä 99% varmaankin kouluista on kunnallisia, yksityiskouluja ei juurikaan ole. Suomalaisen opetuksen filosofia on saada jokainen lapsi taustasta riippumatta kukoistamaan ja käyttämään kaiken sen potentiaalin, mitä hänellä on mahdollista käyttää.
Part of that philosophy is letting kids be kids. Primary students get a 15-minute play break every hour. So does the principal.
Okei, sit menette pukemaan ja...
The school day is also one of the shortest in the world.
No niin, heippa!
The younger grades spend just 20 hours a week at school, half the time Australian kids do.
Suomessa lapset usein kulkevat jo pienenä koulumat, iltapäivät kotona jo itsekseen yksin. Eli kyllä täällä se on suuri asia, että lapset jo siinä alkavat itsenäistyä koulun alkaessa.
Well done.
Less time at school means more time for play, and not just for the kids.
Makke's a goalie, so you can see the dreams, the dreams being passed on.
Work-life balance here is really nice and I feel like it's really balanced. It's just a regular working day from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and the culture seems to be that when work is over, that's it.
Stop! I can't stop.
And everybody appreciates that and just allows people to go home, be with their families. Nobody's expected to be working at all hours of the night. So it's sort of old-fashioned, but in a really nice way.
Melissa says she's happier than ever, but that doesn't mean life is always easy.
Getting better and better.
But has Finnish culture helped her coping skills?
My expectations of life and of what happiness is have definitely changed since moving to Finland. They have this concept of sisu. And it's been really interesting for me to watch Finnish people embody that and then learn from Finnish people to really work on my own sisu.
Starting to snow.
Great Finnish spring weather.
Yeah, excellent.
Because it's not always easy here. It's difficult at times to come to grips with this weather, for instance. So sisu has really helped me.
Okay. Mennä sauna mennessä.
I've got more of that sense of satisfaction, actually, rather than this need to chase happiness all the time.
But it's good to have a sauna after skating.
It's easy to imagine couples like Melissa and Mackie wanting to grow old here. And the reality is, aging in Finland is pretty sweet.
Siis moi, jäätelö, bambino gelato, eli pieni annos.
Laitetaanko yhdellä pallolla?
Joo. Ja siis sen pitää olla niinku täyttä tuhtia tavaraa, että ei mitään laktoositonta. Siellä pitää olla kermaa ja kaikki paheet.
Mä teen sulle semmoisen täydellisen.
Joo. I do eat ice cream every morning because when I was a child, we had to eat our oat porridge every morning. I decided when I live by my own, I will eat ice cream every morning. And this habit has lasted now for 40 years.
66-year-old Lena believes Finland is a great place to grow old.
Finland is quite an equal country, and as old people, we are quite equal with younger generation here in Finland. We don't have to be ashamed of ourselves.
For Lena, the freedom to be herself is important because she isn't your ordinary retiree.
Skating is freedom. When I am skating, I am just doing what I want to do, and skating has increased my creativity. My friends are cultural, but they don't do skateboard.
Lena bought her first skateboard at 63 and has been a regular at Helsinki's skate parks ever since.
What has surprised me that when I began to skateboard, let me say 4 years ago, those kids, they didn't laugh at me, they just look at me and, oh wow, how old are you? You are very welcome, may we teach you.
Yes! That's heaven when I am skating with people of different ages, because then we don't have any barriers at all. We are the same tribe.
Ja takajalka ihan tailille. Kai sä näytät sä?
Lena now runs skate classes for both young and old.
Woohoo!
She believes that mixing it with skaters not only improves her sisu, but shows off another of Finland's best traits.
In Finland, we trust. It is true.
Yeah.
We trust each other. For example, when I have forgotten my backpack in the skate park, nobody didn't take it. When I trust in somebody or in something, then it is also the freedom to be yourself.
Lena is more than happy to grow old in Finland. But the cost of happiness is worrying Finland's leaders. Finland has one of Europe's most rapidly ageing populations. By 2070, it's estimated that 1 in 3 Finns will be over 65. With its generous pension scheme and life expectancy sitting at 82, looking after the elderly is about to be a big problem.
We have some base level problems here in Finland, and one of them is that we are getting old quite fast here in Finland.
For Government MP Annika Sarikko, the elderly are only one part of the ageing crisis.
Also, the birth rate is very low nowadays. We need more children here in Finland.
Rapid urbanisation and increasing education levels are thought to have caused births to drop by 23% in the last decade. The government had plans to address the coming crisis, but then all attention diverted to the pandemic.
Who could even imagine how much our life is going to change when this pandemic came? I'm very grateful to the Finns because the restrictions, which hasn't been easy to live with them, they decided to live in a good way, and restrictions have been working.
Finland has the lowest infection rates in all of Europe. It locked down quickly, maintained tough restrictions, and has fully vaccinated 30% of the population. Annika chalks up Finland's success to one key thing.
Finnish people, they are trusting to the governments. It's a great asset which we have, and it has helped us a lot while we have had this global crisis.
A recent survey revealed that 9 in 10 Finns fully supported the government's COVID efforts. Finland trusts its government more than most OECD countries. According to researchers, that has a big impact on well-being.
Trust has been shown to be one of the factors that explains quite much national happiness levels. In Finland, governmental institutions are like well-functioning and they are able to deliver what they are promising to deliver, which means that people have this feeling that the government is taking care of them. People are not so afraid of various, downturns in life.
With COVID coming under control, where will the trusted government go from here?
The aging is one of the biggest problems which we have. That's our problem which we have solved together. We are a welfare society. It is important that every citizen thinks that my life is important, and the politicians are also, they want to take care of me too, so that they can trust to the future.
But But in the happiest country on earth, there are now a growing number of Finns the government isn't taking care of. As dusk falls on Helsinki, two men are trying to find them.
Tuossa on auton jälkeen kyllä on. Tää voisi olla. Niin, se on melkein täällä.
According to the UN's World Happiness Report, Finland has been the happiest country on earth 4 years running. But it's no utopia, and tonight these men are searching for Finns who've fallen through the cracks.
Täällä on asunnot on jossakin oikein. No veikkaat, se on tää. Joo, otanko? Vähän katsoa.
Visa and Tumos work with No Fixed Abode, a charity providing first aid, food and support to those sleeping rough in Helsinki.
Meneekö toista tietä, mä menen toista tietä.
Locals have reported seeing a group of young people sleeping in this park in below freezing conditions.
Mene sä tonne päin, mä menen tänne. Mä käyn vilkassa ton mukaan.
In a country where winter temperatures drop below -20, homelessness can be deadly. There are signs people have stayed here. But they've moved on.
Mä veikkaan, että se on tää paikka. Ei täällä oo. Kupsin
Visa and Tumos will spend the rest of the night looking for other rough sleepers.
No heitellään tässä perään joku pikku lenkki ja katsotaan.
On an average evening, they'll find dozens across Helsinki needing emergency help.
Morjes.
Despite Finland's famed welfare system, in the last decade, homelessness has been rising in one key group.
Koita selvitä.
Young people under 30.
Meillä on täällä tällä hetkellä on 20 paikkaa, joista suurimpana osana öistä ollaan ihan täynnä.
Robin is a youth leader at Nuoli House, a shelter for under 30s.
Meillä on heille tarjota täällä näin ruokaa ja apua ja keskustelukavereita ja vertaistukea.
The shelter is run on private donations and receives state aid. Even before COVID, Nuoli was under increasing stress.
Meillä tulee tällä hetkellä Nuoleen tosi paljon uusia asunnottomia nuoria. Meillä tulee nuoria muista kunnista, missä ei ole minkäännäköisiä palveluita nuorille asunnottomille. Eli kyllä, asunnottomien nuorten määrä on kasvussa. Lähestulkoon kaikilla nuorilla katuasunnottomilla on taustalla päihteiden käyttö. Päihteiden käyttö, joka on alkanut jo tosi nuorena. Päihdehoitoa tarjolla kaikille sitä tarvitseville.
Substance abuse disorders affect 4% of the Finnish population, nearly double the rate of the rest of the EU. Addiction is a key factor in youth homelessness and affects many of Nuoli's residents who declined to be filmed. At No Fixed Abode's nearby drop-in centre, 34-year-old former resident Jussi was happy to share his story.
4 vuotta on nyt suunnilleen ollut asunnottomana ja tulin tosiaan kuntoutukseen tänne pääkaupunkiseudulle ja jäin niin kuin kadulle sitten
After Jussi aged out of the youth shelter, this place saved his life.
Ei ollut muutakaan paikkaa. Niin. Talvella varsinkaan, niin ei jos ilman näitä palveluita, niin ei täällä pärjäisi kukaan.
But over the last decade, government spending on shelters and substance abuse programs has been slashed. Funding priority has gone to the Accommodation First initiative, a scheme to provide social housing units to all vulnerable Finns by 2032. But with youth homelessness rising, Finland may need to refinance emergency shelters and other social support programs.
It's important to realize that we can't lose anybody. They need education, they need workplaces, they need hope. which helps to survive. And that's why we want to put more effort to the mental health services, because we think that youth, they really need them now.
Until there's substantial change, many homeless must rely on non-government services and SISU to help them survive.
Kyllä mä sillä lailla ajattelen, että tämmönen elämäntyyli, niinku, tai mitä tää mun elämä nyt on viime vuodet ollut, niin ei tää niinku, kovin monessa paikkaa ensinnäkään olisi mahdollista. Niinku, tavallaan joo, kyllä mä ajattelen, että on siitä niinku onnellinen, että Suomessa on ja asun ja hengitön olisin, jos olisin jossain
In spite of issues like homelessness, Finland remains at the top of the World Happiness chart. But is being number one actually hurting Finland? While expat mum Melissa visits the in-laws, there's growing concern that the expectation to be happy is making people anxious.
Yeah, sometimes it's really difficult because my culture is to complain and I guess not so much complain, but say things like they are, and I find that Finnish people don't tend to complain so much or rock the boat or upset the status quo.
Milo, do you want to pee?
So that was really difficult at times for me because I felt like I was being ungrateful and not fitting in.
Some mental health advocates feel the Happiness Report pressures unhappy citizens to hide their distress, preventing many from seeking professional help. But others argue Finns hiding their feelings is nothing new.
So in Finland there's this saying, the one who has happiness should hide it. So kind of like that's part of the Finnish culture that people don't want to stick out and don't want to display their wealth or their happiness to other people. In this modern world where we are all the time comparing each other, like through social media, the less you display your happiest moments, it's better for the social comparison, and in that sense might be also good for people's happiness in the long run.
Whether it's good or bad for Finland to be the world's happiest country, the rest of us can look to Finns for clues on how to live a more satisfying life.
This society, we have built it for everybody. And if somebody feels that this is not for me, that's our biggest problem.
We can learn from the uniquely Finnish concept of sisu, which celebrates resilience and grit.
So it's not about jumping with joy or smiling and laughing, but it's more about, you think that, well, after all, everything is quite good.
Answer!
And we can strive to be more accepting and be stoked to be alive.
When we were selected to be the most happiest country in the world, then I thought, oh, that's bullshit. But now I agree, we are a happy country.